Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds think they're going to subpoena me. Ha! We got Nate the lawyer here to break it all down. Welcome to Popcorn Planet. I am Andy Signore. So happy to be here with Nate the lawyer. What's up, man?
I'm doing great, bro. It's one of those crazy things where Blake Lively decides to subpoena you out of nowhere for a source. It's like this stuff is crazy, but this is the YouTube game, man. How have you been holding up?
It's great. I mean, it's weird. Every day there's a new story, and I'm sorry we were late for this. I promised Nate to come in and talk about the lawsuit, so it took a little while. Schedules, family stuff. We're here. But today is the latest news, Nate. Apparently this is all Ryan's idea. He's the one who pushed to fight back, as now Yahoo's reporting, fighting back against Candace and Perez. I just find it so funny they didn't mention me, but I'm the only one who actually has a history with Ryan. It's just what's so funny about all this, Nate, is no one considers us to be journalists. Meanwhile, the people reporting on it are dumb as bricks who do zero research, have zero intel. I've literally worked with Ryan. If anybody did any more homework, they'd know, oh, he would have even more of a beef with me than the other two, since Ryan did a favor for me. You know what I mean? So, but that's what's so interesting to see the mainstream media coming to attack us and try to paint this up for what I think it is just to make us look bad, to try to again, to flip the narrative is what sources are trying to say here. So I want to go through it, but I really want to talk to you about this the subpoena rather. And I want to get your thoughts because folks need to know you've been helping behind the scenes. I'm so grateful. You're stepping up and helped me with my responses, and you'll be helping out this. We are also trying to get a Florida attorney. I'm interviewing several, so more information to come as we get all that down, just to ensure we cross all the Florida T's and dot all the Florida I's. But Nate, I want to start with you there because when you saw this come in, when I sent this to you, this subpoena, how surprised were you that they resorted to this?
Well, I was pretty surprised because these third-party subpoenas generally don't go well. It's either you're sending them out just to probably intimidate the person, or you have like some real basis to send it out. So, and reading through this, it seems like it's more of a scare tactic to get information from you, or to show the world that, hey, Andy's really behind the scenes working with Wayfair. And to me, it seems they want to put you in a position where if you say, I'm not giving you anything, oh, look, he's got something to hide. And then if you turn over everything, it's like, oh, so it's like you're kind of in this lose-lose situation. And like I just said, if you turn over everything, then you lose your sources for any other news story, right? They're going to be like, oh my God, if when pushed a little bit, he turned over all his sources. So that's the narrative they want to play. But I think right now, you treat them like mushrooms. You feed them crap and keep them in the dark, because obviously they're not sending these subpoenas to TMZ. They're not sending them to all these other places that also get these types of information. And I don't know if you remember in the Johnny Depp case. Remember when I forgot who was the guy that went to the stand that got the information from Amber Heard, and TMZ sent a lawyer to Johnny Depp's trial to fight to have that information because he was a source, a protected source. So things like that, I think we need to call out, because right now, at the end of the day, this subpoena is doo-doo garbage. But when you got a lot of money, you can throw things out there and then make a big scene. And as you can see, they're all eating it up. They're literally all eating it up right now. So
you want to hear my theory on why they're really doing this?
Yeah.
I mean, it's not just my theory. I shout out, Anita Thinks Out Loud had a very sound theory that I'm going to spotlight here in this video. Let's figure out why Candace, myself, and Perez. You ready for this? And by the way, Anita, good research you're doing. Candace, I believe this is about the Taylor Swift leak. They still don't know who snitched or how it got out that Lively Camp allegedly threatened Taylor Swift about the communication. They're hunting for the source. This was a huge reveal. Reveal that allegedly it's Scott Swift, her own father, who talked to Friedman, etc., to tip them off.
Wow.
Now, how did they get that? Candace was the one who sort of broke that and was the first one to sort of say it. So good theory as to why they want to figure out who's she talking to. Regarding me, yeah, I'm doing a documentary. I've talked to a lot of cast and crew. I've not been shy about that. Even released a trailer where we had to have the crew in a mask, Nate, to hide their identities. I've promised not to reveal their identities. And technically, I guess they're Wayfair employees, right? Because it's a Wayfair picture. It's a whole can of worms that I can't open. So there it was. They want to know what was shared. And then Perez, he confirmed something major about James Vishuka, who might not only expose Leslie Sloan's alleged smear tactics, but also has direct info about how they were planning hit pieces on Baldoni back in August. So all three of us had recently kind of got wins, you know what I mean? Like got people from the other side to actually whistleblow and reveal the truth. And I don't think they like that. I don't think they like that. That's my theory. Again, just a theory for now. But what do you think? Does that seem potentially sound? Could that be?
It does.
Could that be them trying to save face? You think to cause this uproar?
Yes. It makes total sense. But don't forget, they're trying to push. I don't think this is really for the courtroom. I think this is for the public at large, because they're trying to say that all these outside forces are connected and essentially this conspiracy theory that everyone's trying to go against them. But I just don't think it works. And I think right, when you're doing this documentary and you're speaking to cast and crew and getting these tips, then it's kind of like, oh my God, what has he learned? Who is he talking to? That type of thing. And even if you were to tell them, they're going to put pressure on those people, or attempt to put pressure on those people. But Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds know this is a game. You cannot ask journalists for their sources. That's just not the way, especially in a civil case, which we'll go over. So I think you're dead on. I think you're dead right, and I think whoever the person who wrote that was also dead right, especially
Anita, bravo. Too. Also, shout out to Nicki Minaj.
Oh yeah, I saw that. She hooked you up. Leave Andy alone.
Yeah, leave Andy alone. That was great timing. Thank you, Nikki. I can only assume that was about me. Bravo. But yeah, look, before we get into more of the questions, I just got to thank everybody, because my goodness, they have stepped up, Nate. Look at this. Yes. Our war chest is growing. Again, I don't know what this is going to cost. We're already working on legal costs, but all I know is the documentary is going to cost a lot more to go reshoot as well. So there are costs that have been spent already, and no streamer wants to touch us because they don't want to piss off Ryan. And now you can tell why. He's out there this vindictively out there trying to spin the narrative in his way. So thank you to everybody who stepped up. You can continue to donate if you're able to. If you can't, I understand. At least share it. You can see our Give, Send, Go. I'll put the link at the bottom. Also, just real quick, make sure you subscribe to our doc. I guess it wasn't very clear. A lot of you aren't reading all this. Just go to our sign up page. It's on the top. All members of our new website, popcornplanet.com, you can head there as well. Go to the main page as well. We're going to redesign this so it's a little bit clearer, because I don't think it's been as clear, but now we've made it as crystal clear as possible. Head on over and click sign up. That's how you can become a member. All members will get first access. Obviously, this has put us for a little bit of a loop. Still trying to at least get episode 1 done by the deadline we had instilled, but we may need some more time in between episodes. So bear with us. We're going to do our best. Obviously, we want to make sure we have the story in the right order, and now we've become part of the story. But Nate, while I have you here to talk about this case, as many people had questions, what else can you reveal? I mean, obviously we can't, we don't go too much into what we're going to plan and all, but what else are your thoughts on this, the ridiculousness of this, and what we plan to do with this for the fans, people out there to be prepared for?
Well, I want to talk. Well, I'll talk in generalities, but it'll also cover some of the stuff in this particular case. Well, obviously, Andy's a journalist, but he's also doing this documentary. And when you are doing a piece like this, especially a newsworthy piece or a piece on something that's happening in the news, you don't have to be a journalist in terms of there's no accreditation, right? The Constitution doesn't have a space just for journalists. It's actually the right to a free press is our right. So it's a personal right to you. So that's one thing I want to make sure everyone understands. There's no special right for journalists. So when we talk about this, Andy has just as much right as ABC, NBC, and those type of organizations to go to develop sources, methods, and to publish his own work. So this is a First Amendment argument. Now, in a civil case, generally, when you're trying to compel non-parties to turn things over, you generally are saying there is no other. This person I know has information that's critical to my case, and there is no other way I can get that information except if they give it to me. And that's essentially what they're going for. Now, I think in Andy's response, and I think anybody else's response, the first thing you're going to say is there are other ways to get it. Like, for instance, in this particular case, they are asking in your subpoena, because you've made your subpoena public, they're asking for all the document, everything, essentially everything that
every
communications
version
between
of it,
you and Wayfair, right? But the thing is that they've already sent subpoenas to Wayfair. So they've already got technically all of Andy. If they've subpoenaed all, they can get all the information from Wayfair employees and all that stuff who they are suing. Then why are you asking Andy for that information? You understand? You already have a means to get that information. Now you can make the argument Wayfair may cut something or may not give everything over, but that's on Wayfair. Wayfair has a legal obligation to turn all that stuff over, and you have the legal obligation to say, "Hey, you didn't turn over whatever." But you don't need to go after Andy because you have another way of getting the information. So those are things that are obviously that they have to overcome. And I as you guys know, you guys may not know, but I've dealt with this before. I had a client who also had the same issue in the Alec Baldwin case. And then but that was a criminal case. So now the difference between criminal and civil cases, especially in this domain, we're talking about subpoenas, is pretty big, because in a civil case, it's going to be a lot harder to get third-party subpoenas. But in a criminal case, it's a lot easier. But even in that case, we were able to argue for the reporter's privilege that, hey, he's a reporter, these are sources, you can't get this information. And we were able to argue more successfully on state law versus federal law. And the DA Morrison literally screamed at us over the phone, "I'm going to send you a subpoena." And I told her, I said, "Well, send it and stop talking it." And she never sent it. So a lot of times, as long as you push, they'll push as far as they can. But as soon as they get a little pushback, which I think is going to happen here, they're going to go away. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I love that. You stood up against literally a criminal. That case was nuts, the Russ case. My gosh. And yeah, shocking you were able to push that off. So that gave me faith in Nate even more than I already had. What's also just funny to me, and we mentioned this before, like they're asking, we demand to know this statement, this connection with below Google Doc and blah. Where'd you get it from? It's like, it says right there. It says literally on screen where I got it from. And this very statement was the same statement. TMZ, People, all listed. Are they getting subpoenaed, Nate? Why am I being singled out? Is this ridiculous? Am I crazy? What are your thoughts?
Well, one thing though about this statement, number one, if the statement wasn't signed, if this was like then maybe you have an argument. But even though I still think you'd be covered by reporter's privilege, and there's an issue with reporter's privilege federally, but I would still think you're covered. But here again, it says the source's name on the document. So there is so why am I asking for communications where, okay, here is who I got it from. You have who he has it from, and then you can subpoena that person who's, I'm assuming, is a Wayfair employee, to get all the information.
That's Brian Freeman. That's the lawyer.
Yes, but so are they trying to backdoor the lawyer? But the lawyer signed it, right? So there's no need to get your messages to tell you something that's already on the source. And the fact that all these other sources get it. And that's another argument, right? Yeah, you can get that from TMZ because obviously you're feeding them information. You fed them Andy subpoena, right? You fed them all these other subpoenas before they got them. So obviously you had this information. But they don't want to do that because obviously TMZ will fight tooth and nails against it. And they didn't expect you to have the funds and resources in the community to come together to help you fight for your rights.
Yeah, it's wild because Harvey Levin came out pretty early when all this went ahead. He like shot a warning shot across the bow. He was like, we've had both sides reach out to us, like kind of wink, wink. Like he kind of admitted, like, you're both in a PR battle. You've both been using us. You've both given us stuff to leak. Keep us out of it. And that's what's so frustrating about this case, that Blake is trying to play like she isn't doing her own retaliation campaign when she clearly is with Ryan. They both are teamed up again, as these sources are saying, to flip the narrative. And it's all about the PR battle. They're saying Ryan's treating this like a movie script and creating this is call sheets and like literally doing this whole place thing. This is all his idea to fight back. Damage control, storyboard, strategy. This isn't just about justice, it's about taking back the narrative, a source claimed. This is about power, and Ryan's making sure they keep it. I mean, honestly, I've worked with Ryan, as I've said numerous times. I liked Ryan when I worked with him, but this all makes sense. He is very much in control when you look at what happened with Tim Miller and TJ. There are a lot of people that he's managed to piss off, have turned against him, and then he quietly comes back and, oh, I'm so sorry. Then because he's Ryan Reynolds, they all fawn over and fall back into his control. But it's clear to me more than ever, this is all about power. This whole case was about power, and who actually had the power is a very interesting part of this story, which we talk about in our documentary, even its own trailer, which I can't imagine they liked us going there. What is your opinion on that as we wrap up? Your final thoughts? This whole It Ends With Us lawsuit. Do you really think Justin Baldoni was the one who was abusing his power?
No. From, again, all the information I've seen, because I haven't seen everything, it seems like Blake Lively has a bone to pick with this guy, and obviously Baldoni, and she wants to have her pound of flesh. But when it came out in the media and he started fighting back, I think that really hurt her argument. And I definitely want to mention one thing again, this is not legal advice to anyone who ever gets a subpoena. But what I do want to say is that, especially for journalists, the first thing people ask is, why is it harder in a civil case for civil litigants to get third-party subpoenas than it is for criminal litigants? Well, generally, when it comes to news sources, when there's a implied, and in some instances, there's an actual contractual obligation between the reporter and the source. Now, generally, you'll hear the terms off record, on the record. We all know those terms. But if you are meeting with a source and you ask them for information, and they say, I'll give you this information only if you keep it off the record or don't release my name, that information is valuable to you. Them keeping their name out of the media is valuable to them. So you have essentially an applied contract between yourself and the source. That's why when Andy, you were saying that your people were covered up, and then that relationship is a civil relationship, it's a civil contract essentially with them. And there could be penalties if you violate that contract between the valuable information you got versus keeping the source. So in a civil context, you have a civil contract, and then they have a civil lawsuit. It's very hard for their civil lawsuit to overcome another civil obligation, a civil lawsuit. But in terms of criminal, we can go back to the Diddy case, for instance. Remember, Cassie had the NDA, the civil NDA with Diddy. So she wouldn't have been able to break that civil NDA in another civil case. They could say, hey, we have an NDA, that's a civil matter, blah, blah, blah. But in a criminal case, that was able to overcome that civil obligation, and she was able to testify because of criminal matters. So in criminal matters, it's going to be less likely that they'll be able to hold the information unless you have a judge unless you have like some shield laws. A lot of states have shield laws. Like I even think the state here has a shield law. But generally, it's the determinative factor is if it's civil versus criminal, and the whether the information can be gained by some other means. So I think Andy in all of this has a really, really strong case, and I think, unfortunately, I think this was meant to make you spend money, to make you waste your time, and to try to get the narrative out there that you are a misogynist. And didn't Kat Tinbar just write something again about?
I was going to say, can we do this as a part 2? Will you come back and do a quick one with me?
Oh, yeah.
Let's tape a part 2 because, he's right on the money. We got to talk about Kat Tinbar. I hate to give her the spotlight, but I don't want to say her name again. But Nate, you've been there with me. You've been in the trenches way back. And I think we need to educate our audience on what's actually happening here. But Nate's right. They thought they were going to drain us, but they're not because of you. Because of all you, they're not going to drain us. They're draining you, but you're happy to help. And when we all unite, we can actually fight the Goliath. So please help donate. Keep help donating. I don't know how long they're going to try to make this, but just know your funds are going to go towards fighting back, whether it's the legal funds, the documentary. I assure you those funds are going to go to good use to ensure we stand up against these bullies. We will not be silenced, and they will not get my sources. And I'm so grateful to Nate the Lawyer. Make sure you're subscribing over to him as well at Nate the Lawyer on YouTube, X, all those places. Give him a shout out, give him a follow. He has awesome content you're not going to miss. And make sure you're subscribed here. Hit that subscribe button, hit that bell for all alerts. smash that thumbs up as well and leave your comments down below. Make sure you go also to the website. Like I said, head on over there and hit sign up. Today you can become a member. We're porting over from Patreon. A lot more is going to be coming on the website. Replays, exclusives, documentaries, including our With Hate Meghan documentary, which I urge you to check out. It's pretty informative. Check it all out there. Stay tuned for part 2 with Nate the Lawyer as we talk about more about the subpoena and the misogyny. Oh my God, the misogyny.